Welcome to the Lifeletics Podcast, a brand dedicated to the growth of athletes as they transition to life after sports. My name is Megan Ritter, former D1 swimmer at Florida Atlantic University. My goal here is to make all athletes feel empowered to take on the sport of life. Akin Ayodele, your former NFL linebacker. You are from Dallas, Texas, and you played college football at Purdue.
Right.
So very far away from Dallas, Texas, first off. And you, in 2002, you were drafted by the Jags. And then from there, you got to play Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Such different environments in all of those places of the US. And I'm sure you have so many cool stories to back that. Now you're the business development executive for Sapoznik Insurance, and you are a true servant leader in your community. And I am personally very honored to be able to have a conversation with you. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Megan. I remember after the events that we met last weekend, us just having a conversation, there was so much that we could relate to each other just because of the sports background, but also, just all the hardship and the challenges we've been through and then all that transition. And just to know that you are continuing to elevate yourself and challenge yourself on different mediums. Now you're doing this podcast and just creating, your own lane and the uniqueness of just building and growing. So, congratulations to you. Thanks for having me on. This is exciting. Let's have fun with this.
Absolutely. So let's just start a little bit with your background. What inspired you to get into football? Where did it all start?
Wow. Oh, do we have enough time for that?
I know. What's the initial inspiration?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, my inspiration was really about taking care of my family. Um, and not necessarily the glitz and glamour, the football fame. It was just finding a means to take care of my family, like get us out of the environment we lived in. We were so poor, we probably couldn't afford the second O in the word poor. We were so poor that, our roommates and living tenants were roaches. Like it was bad.
Wow.
And, we shared my brother. So it's four of us, four siblings, and my mom that took care, that raised, that provided and took care of us. All the boys, stayed in the same room. And my mom, my sister stayed in the same room, and less than 500 square feet of space. We moved around every 3 to 6 months. There were times where I would come home and there was eviction notice and our stuff was outside. So we'll have to grab all our stuff and then go to, find another place to stay. But all that, I say all that just to kind of give you a picture of my motivation. I hated that feeling of uncertainty. I hated to watch my mom work 3, sometimes 4 jobs. And then, she was trying to better herself by getting some continuing education and trying to balance motherhood, pay the bills, cook. Like, you just see all of that. You're like, oh man, there's got to be more. You've got to be able to give more than just being a kid. And so at a very early age, Megan, I pretty much got to the point where I was self-sufficient. Mom never had to worry about me, never had to really give me money or worry that, I wasn't going to be okay. I even, to a point where I actually started not doing activities or hanging out or playing outside just so that my mom could have a break or go work that second or third shift at her job. And I was babysitting my siblings. So at a very early age, probably 7, 8, 9 years old, I was babysitting. You can't, well, take care of my brothers. You're not really babysitting your own siblings, right? You're taking
Yeah.
care of your siblings. I was cooking, I was changing diapers and making baby formulas and just being that young kid that was taking care of his siblings. And I'm the oldest, so it was a natural transition for me to do that anyways. But what happened was I wanted to really find a way to take care of my family. And going into my freshman year of college, I read a Sports Illustrated article that discussed how colleges gave high school seniors scholarships. And, they paid for everything, your tuition, your housing, your food, gave all these
Yeah.
resources and books. And I said, that's my ticket. I got to get a scholarship because mom didn't have enough money, you know?
Like you saw that was real and that could happen.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was it. That was all that's all it was, is just go to college. Go to college, go get a degree and get a job, and that would pay for, to get us a better place, get it, and bring my siblings or my mom along the way. And before I know it, I was in the NFL, buying mom a house and buying her a car. And the day I got drafted, my brother, the one that's after me, it was his prom. I remember getting them a nice limo, paying
Oh,
for his tugs, and making sure that he was set, because I got an advance from my agent, and I got a hotel room and just sat there till I got drafted. I got a call from the Jaguars, and then I drove back home and celebrated my family. But just that being in that position made, the journey of all the hard work, just pay off.
absolutely. Where were you when you got the call?
I was in a hotel room. I was in a hotel
Oh,
room by myself. I didn't want to allow a large crowd around me. I
right.
really wasn't, because I was projected to go anywhere between the second round and the fifth round. And when I got drafted back in '02, the first three rounds were still on the first day. So, it was a big deal. But, you could either be, the number one pick at the, on set, very first hour, or you could be I think the third round goes all the way like 110 or something. And that is 8 hours later,
Wow.
So it's still a long day, and lucky for me, I think I only had to wait 6 hours.
Only 6 out of the 8.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was worth every hour.
Well, that's so amazing. Now, when did you know that the NFL specifically was in reach? And in your college experience, you had to have known, like, okay, this is something that's possible and I'm going to work for it.
Yeah. I never knew it was a reach. So I started my sophomore year at Purdue, played Central Florida, 2 sacks and multiple fumble causes, multiple tackles. Second game we played Notre Dame, 2 sacks, fumble calls, multiple tackles, and then I think third game I had a phenomenal start. And midway through that sophomore year, there was a coach, an NFL scout that came in, and told my coach to tell me, if I keep playing that way, that, I might find myself in the NFL. But I still, even after they told me that, I still didn't think it was an attainable goal. I just thought, it was wishful dream, and, I might get a undrafted status. And the same thing happened my junior year. My junior year, I would play back and forth between linebacker and D end. And, and then, we had phenomenal games. One of our historic games was we were getting whipped by Michigan. And guess who the quarterback was?
Who?
The GOAT.
Oh my
Tom
gosh.
Brady was the quarterback. I mean, we were getting clobbered. And all of a sudden, we go into halftime. It was dead silent in the locker room, because we expected we had Drew Brees at quarterback, so we expected to be performing better. Defensively, we were known for having a good defense. Not
Right.
a peep at halftime. We go back out and things just click. And all of a sudden, I think we were down maybe 20 points, something like that. We come back and, last second field goal, we end up winning the game. I dropped a pick, but I end up
Eh,
sacking the goal. I end up sacking the goal that game. But I should have, I dropped, he threw me a pick. I should have, I threw me a ball. I should have picked it up, but I dropped it.
yeah.
I still sacked him. We won that game. It was crazy. The students rushed the field. But even after that game, a NFL scout again told me that I would find myself in a job, and I still didn't think it was possible. I was just there for school, to give everything that I had to my teammates, to give everything that I have to my university. I had the ultimate college experience. Megan, I rarely slept. You know, I was on
Wow.
these lists. Like, I took care of my academics. I gave everything to football. I would sneak into our stadium where we played on Saturdays. It's on a hill, and there's this one part of the hill that there's a gate, and because it's slanted, it's sloped, you could crawl underneath it. And so every Sunday, during the off season and during the summertime, I would crawl underneath that little gap and run every single stair.
Wow.
And, that was my mindset. It was just give everything you have, get this degree, and, go get this job. And my senior year, things again just worked out. And yeah, I got invited to the Senior Bowl. I was all Big Ten. I was team MVP. I had all these accolades, and I was just kind of in a state of, well, if it happens, it happens. We'll see. And there it
And
was.
if it didn't, what was your plan?
The plan was I was either going to, so I have a sports psychology and law and society degree,
Okay.
essentially sociology. And I thought I would either go be an FBI agent or I'll go to law school. Yeah, something in that nature. Those were my two
Okay.
options. I didn't know if I wanted to practice law, but I was thinking, I could ultimately do something. And yeah, and that was it. And that's what I was planning for.
That's so cool. So you just grinded it out at Purdue.
Right.
And I know a lot of I don't know, I mean, at FAU where I went, there were some of the teams, they didn't really care about school. Their only thing was sports, right? Now, what was it in you that was like, I need both?
Yeah, because I didn't have both. Being that I was naturally athletic, I could run like the wind. I was, as being a linebacker at the end, I was a big guy. It's very muscular, but I could run. So that was natural for me. What I really had to work at was the academics. I'm dyslexic and have ADHD.
Mm.
I was diagnosed early, but something in me said that for me to go off and be able to take care of my family, that I needed a solid education. And part of that education was I had to push myself. And if I could do that, then once I get out into the real world, at least I would have the confidence to whatever lane I had to navigate into corporate or into whatever industry that I jump in. That was what I was thinking. I don't know if it was just the spirit of God talking to me and just leading me, but that was
Yeah.
where my mindset was. So I chose Purdue. I was recruited. Story I forgot to tell you. I originally had actually signed with University of Texas coming out of high school, and then the spring semester of my sophomore year of my senior year, I got in a car wreck with some friends. Lost one of my best friends, lost
Oh,
another close, high school friend. So I was in and out of school dealing with that, and my GPA dropped. I became ineligible to play Division I football, so I had to go to junior college. Come down to junior college, did well, did well academically, did well on the gridiron, and I was recruited all over again by almost every school in the country, and even Miami recruited me, and I was supposed to come down to Miami, but Purdue was in my opinion, the best academic school that offered me a scholarship.
mm.
And that's why I went to Purdue. So the academic part of it was more important than the sports, the football side. And Purdue, prior to me going there, they had been in bowl games. They had won, several big games and were on TV.
Yeah,
And
good program.
they were a good program. In the early to mid '90s, they were so, but they had Michael All-Star, which was a big name. But it was in the Big Ten. It was far away from home, but it was the best academic school that I could think of. And I said
Yeah.
I needed to go to a school that would challenge me, because I wasn't so sure that it wasn't about sports, or I wasn't so sure that football was going to work out. And I just happened to where all of it worked out.
I mean, all the different hardships that you overcame just to like even make it just to the NFL, even to just Purdue. Now, all the three different teams you played with in the NFL, where do you see was the biggest difference between those team atmospheres and all that stuff? What is the biggest difference between those?
It's a good question. Not a lot of difference. I would say coaching matters, the players, the relationships that you have with your teammates matters. But as far as facility, as far as fans, as far as traditions, they're very similar. The
Right.
only big point is when I played for the Cowboys, there was a noticeable fan base that traveled well, made themselves very apparent at every single game, even away games. We were, I would consider us the Beatles of the league, right?
Oh,
Because
they're all
the
over.
fans, lined up all the way down the street at the hotels. We'd play away and we'd have more Cowboys fans that were at their home stadium than the actual home team. So that was probably the noticeable difference. But as far as playing, stadium, coaching, teammates, facility, atmosphere, all those were very similar. But my new differences were just maybe leadership styles.
Like,
I would say, depending on the coach, really showed the leadership styles and skills.
now I know when you had spoken at the event that we went to, you had mentioned the average years in the NFL is 2.8.
Mhm.
And you had acknowledged everybody for being over 3 years. And you said 3 years and 3 games is what it takes
Yeah.
to get invested into the
That's,
sport.
yes.
What is it about that number? And
Yeah.
did you notice it at that point?
Oh, listen, let me paint the picture for you. So imagine in what you do right now, your day-to-day job, what pays your bills, right? And every aspect of that job is scrutinized. So you have multiple people that from the time you get up to how you write out a contract to how you execute a presentation to how you go about and taking tours, every single part of that is scrutinized and underneath a microscope because the one time you forgot to dot an I or cross a T or point out a section, you're dinged for it, and you're only allowed so many ding before they replace you, like they bring somebody else. That is the life of an NFL athlete. Every single thing that they do, there's a scout, there's somebody that's taking note, and you're graded on the time that you come in, how you go to practice, how you put on your pads, how you run, how you talk, how you perform just at practice. Everything is graded. And if it's not at the level as one person, or two people deem as satisfactory, then you're out the door. You could have this 3, 4, 5 year contract and it means nothing.
Wow.
So that is the mindset that you have to go into and you have to embrace and understand that if I don't do it right all the time, if I don't step up and perform well all the time, then there's another man that's right there to replace me. There's another person who they're going to bring in. And that is part of the reason why you do see the high turnover. And you
Mm,
do see why a lot of guys who may have, notoriety coming in on the collegiate level, even the first round draft picks don't have that longevity because it's a grind. It's a
mm,
dog eat dog, and it's you really having to be on top of your game 24/7. And the moment you slip, there's somebody else who is just as talented, who is just as hungry, who has the passion to give everything to it, and is right there to replace you. And that is why that number is right under 3 years. And that is why that the NFL though has a investment policy where you have to play 3 years and 3 games because they know the number. It's a numbers game, statistics. It's a
mm.
numbers thing. And they know that most athletes, most NFL players won't make it to that 3 years. And it's even less than that, guys that play above that 3 years. The number of players playing beyond 3 years or to 10 years diminishes.
So that pressure is so tough for a lot of people. I mean, even people going into just the high school athletics to college athletics. Okay, there's pressure, there's a little threshold there. Okay. And then up to professional, there's like 100%. That is your job. And you are being watched by not only everybody that's on the field with you, but everybody on the TV.
Yeah, yeah, I can be tough,
It's no
especially
joke.
now. I was lucky that I was in that in between phase of social media and
Mm,
the mass media and all the mediums that are out there now. and the microscope that players are under every single day, on the court, on the field, off the court, off the field. Their whole lives is exposed to the world. And naturally, some of them, do it on their own. But for certain instances, everybody has this device that we call a phone that has a camera and a video. They're
Mhm.
constantly, filming or just tweeting about individuals. So you got that. That's another, variable or a component that I didn't have to necessarily deal with as much as it is now, but that adds pressure. That does add the
Sure.
pressure to, why guys don't perform, consistently or at a high level or don't make it, into the league.
Yeah, 100%. I could see how that has taken a toll on just about everything in the world, but especially in athletics and people who do have a platform. It's like exacerbated that platform almost because then everybody has a say, right?
Right. Right.
So now what coach, I know you'd been through different coaches, all that stuff. What coach had the biggest impact on you?
It won't be just one,
Okay.
I'm a sponge when it comes to knowledge. I love
Okay.
to learn. Lifelong student. I would never arrive. I'm always arriving. That's my motto. I feel that mindset allows me to be open, to learn, to grow, to be vulnerable. And so all the coaches that I've had, but I'll name a few. Tom Coughlin, he taught me how to the importance of being on time.
Okay.
He would fine you if you were if you got to a meeting less than 5 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start. So if you got there 4 minutes and 59 seconds, you were getting fined before the meeting was supposed, not after, before.
Oh,
You would get a between a $500 and $5,000 fine. Okay.
wow.
Not a cheap fine. Jack Del Rio taught me how to play the game from a linebacker's lens. Former linebacker himself, former defensive coordinator, was my head coach too in Jacksonville. He really gave me the nuance of playing the position as a linebacker and helped me absorb how to be a student and how to study film. Bill Parcells is one of my favorites as well. An old school mindset, but just a wealth of knowledge. He had all these sayings. He's a New York, New Jersey guy. So he would have all these sayings that were just, to me, it was just so weird, but they were funny. But one of the things that he taught me early on was how to actually use a speed bag and punch a speed bag and have quick
Uh,
hands. And then he would give me little tricks, techniques of how to take on blocks and how to make certain tackles and also just how to read the field and how to understand quarterbacks. But more importantly, I think even more than that, that's the football talk. He really gave me a lot of lessons and wisdom about life, about
mhm.
people. One of them that I take with me everywhere is he says, "Don't be afraid to confront, to challenge people, but always be open to accept people for who they are." So what he was trying to do is for me to understand that it's okay to have challenges. It's okay to be a leader and to step up and speak, even though it's not the popular thing to say, but always be open to resolve a challenge. Always be open to communicate and bring them back into your world, or you go back into their world and resolve the issue. Because he was always open to be combative with his players. He did shy away from a player, no, regardless of their status. He always had an open door policy. Players saw that, and I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that really imparted in me to be a good leader by challenging people, calling people out, but always also open the door and having a heart to really forgive, and grow with people.
Mhm.
George Edwards has been my lifelong coach, friend on the field and off the field. He was a former Bills defensive coordinator, Vikings defensive coordinator, and my linebackers coach here in Miami. So we have a lifelong friendship. So I've learned a lot from him. And then Wade Phillips, I loved Wade's style of defense. He gave me permission playing to not be a robot on the field. And also that transition to life, be flexible, nimble, be able to adjust to whatever is thrown at you and not just have be one way. There's so much I got from each coach. I can
Yeah.
the list.
I think the communication and being a leader from a position of having a challenging conversation with somebody, but growing with them was
Yeah.
the word I took from that was with. You doing that as a team. It's not I'm telling you this is wrong and we're moving on.
Mm.
It's okay, wait, why is it that you think that way? Here's my position. And let's figure this out together and we can all grow together.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's
You
cool.
said it better than I did.
Now I have to ask, I know you've played so many games.
Mhm.
What's one of your most memorable experiences?
You know,
I know.
tapping.
But like the Dallas Cowboys, you have people lining up. Like there's gotta be some like really cool.
There were so many, I never missed a game my entire NFL career. I played in
Really?
every single game. No, I misspoke. I missed one game. One game, you know,
Okay.
the almost decade long that I played. Um, and that was only because I was actually asked to play. They wanted me to play, but I said no because I didn't know the playbook enough. And I had signed with my last year. I signed with Buffalo right before the season started, right before the season opener. And I think I had 1 day or 2 days of practice, and I was supposed to suit up. And I said, it's just not right. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't think it's fair for the guy that, had been there the entire camp and had made the team also. So that was the only game. So I played in 147 out of 148 games. It's a
Wow.
lot of games. But I was okay. There's one that does stick out because it's my rookie year and it was against um, my hometown team of the Cowboys. I was in Jacksonville rookie year playing in Dallas. So all my friends, all my family, entire city in my hometown that I grew up in Irving. I think I bought 50 tickets that game. I never bought 50 tickets after I saw my paycheck. The deduction on my paycheck that game. But we played against the Dallas Cowboys the week before. Emmitt Smith had just gotten the all-time rushing title. So, they were still riding on high, a high on that. And I remember going to the game when I was younger in junior high. I had a poster of Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irving, on my wall. So I was just thinking I got to have a great game. And it was probably the first or second play of the game. There was a run played my way. I remember running up, hitting the guard, shedding the guard off, and shooting right into the hole. And there's Emmitt Smith right in front of me. And
Wow.
I swear time stood still.
Yes.
It was like God snapped his fingers and said, pause, when you take this moment in, you're about to hit the guy that you used to have on your wall. Okay, I need you to realize this. In that moment, I'm thinking, wow, you're about to hit Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith is coming at you. And I would tell you, I probably had 1,000 different thoughts before I hit this guy named Emmett Smith. And I remember hitting it. Finally, someone said, "Oh, you better hit him." And I hit him, take him down, and I got up so fast and grabbed him up so fast. And I said, sorry for hitting you, Emmett." And I apologized for doing my job. And my teammates look at me, what? Boy, did you just apologize? Don't, man, don't you ever apologize again. If I ever hear you apologize. So yeah, that was the first and last time I did that. Yeah,
Never apologized again after that.
never apologize for doing your job.
Wow. So you hit the guy that was on your wall. For how long was this guy on your wall? Well,
In junior high, I think I got into just watching football, and obviously it was the '90s. The Cowboys were the team,
right.
of the decade. And yeah, so they're good. So 2 years.
Okay. That's gotta be such a surreal feeling. I love when you said, you had so many thoughts go through your head in just
Mhm.
that split second
The
moment.
second. Mhm.
It's crazy how our mind can do that. So now all the way to the end, I mean, when did you say, "All right, I gotta hang up my cleats"?
Oh, the girl, they weren't trying to pay me the same amount of money. Listen.
Okay. I'm curious how it would happen. Some people they go through the injuries, the just
No,
no longer, and I know money's a huge thing of it too, and
yeah,
agents and games, and
yeah.
so
They just said, listen, we love you, we like you, we think you're valuable, but we're not as valuable as what we want to pay somebody else.
okay.
And they wanted me to be a backup to some young guys, and I was open to the idea if they would allow us to compete. I'm all about competition. I'm all
Mhm.
about being fair. One, I wanted them to earn the position. I wanted to be able to let them know that you have to this, I had to compete my entire career. I had to every single team I played from, they always brought in somebody to take that position. Or they paid somebody more than they were paying me to take that position, and it never
Right.
happened. And for me, it wasn't, I mean, my ego, obviously, it was an ego thing as well, but I
Right.
was also in the camp of for you to be the best you can be, you have to push and allow somebody to push against you. And I was open to them. Well, let them compete, and I will mentor and teach them along the way. And they said no. They just want me to just automatically be a backup, and that's how it's going to go. And so I, my ego said, nah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was okay to walk away, and I was okay with that. Do I have any regrets? No. Would I? Don't have any regrets. The fact that I can console myself and say it was a decision that I made on my own because most people, just to your point, when the game ends, it doesn't end on their own decision or their own
Right.
order. It's usually ends very abruptly. And fortunate that I could say no and see who would offer me a position that I felt was my value.
That's amazing. So obviously you're no longer in the NFL and you've moved on to, professional world and being in the NFL and doing those games and just being in athletics in general. Like it fuels you, right?
Mhm.
Like you get adrenaline through your whole veins when you get on the field, when you're in the locker room, whether you're practicing, whether you're competing. And where do you get that feeling from now?
I think what I do now in my role. So I was recruited by this company that you see the logo, World Insurance, and I'm the business development executive, but also I juggle multiple hats. But I see that as a challenge from what I need to do in life, because one of my goals is to impact 50,000 lives directly and indirectly. That is through my work, that is through my speaking engagements, that is through my community engagement, that is through like all my passions. And for me, what pushes me, what fuels me is the ability to know that I can impact somebody's life positively. And that's my sole goal is positive impact. The way I lead, the way I serve, it's really to give to others what I felt has been given to me. There's no way I would be able to play a decade-long career if people didn't invest in me, if I didn't have coaches, if I didn't have players, if I didn't have friends, and most random strangers that just gave that to me that allowed me to reach my goal. And what I do now allows me to do that. It allows me to do that for others, and it allows me to also have that purpose, to get up every day and to pursue something. I think what most athletes miss is that regimented schedule and purpose of life, that through the course of an entire year, they know where they're gonna they know where they're gonna be, they know what they're gonna be
Right.
doing, they know how their schedule is set, they know how they're gonna train, how they're gonna eat. What happens is when you do leave the game, whether it's at a collegiate level or a professional level, that is pulled from you, and then you don't
Mhm.
have that anymore. And if you're able to transition your mind and think of what your new role, your new job, your new vocation is, and think of it as that same way, then it gives you that instant purpose, that instant fire to pursue something beyond yourself. You might see this logo and you say, okay, I'm working for this company called World Insurance. That is not just what I do. I'm not working for World Insurance. I'm working for my clients. Like I work for the clients that we pursue. And for me is really to give the best service, is to give my teammates, my team members, the best service that I can give them. And when I have that mindset, man, you're always pushing, you're always challenging, you're not satisfied with mediocre. Gives you that time to really invest in yourself and invest in others. The second part that gives me also drive is my family. My wife, my daughter. We're expecting our second child here in August. And, every single day that if I can be the best version of myself to my partner, if I can be the best version of myself to my daughter, regardless of what is out there, regardless of the stresses and the pressures and the deals and the doors that have been closed and the no's that I've had, I got to set myself. I got to be ready. And having that pace, that mindset of walking in the door, and it's all about them, and it's all about making sure that I'm ready for whatever they need me to be. That gives me all the fire, all the passion to be on top of my game. Where I do get to release my stresses and my tensions is I picked up this crazy game of golf.
No way.
Yes, I would have never thought that I would play this game and I would get to release a lot of stress. I don't know if it's just the fact that I'm whacking this ball all down the court, you know, but I love it. Also like doing other activities. I love to swim. I still love to run. I still hit the gym and just being faithful in my devotion, my faith, all that allows me to release my stresses and my worries, just through that.
Now, do you feel like since you had such a true sense of self while you were in the NFL or while you were in the game, I mean, it's always been kind of embedded in you, it seems like, to really be hungry for more personal development and learning a little bit more about yourself, that it's given you this avenue to say, you know what, that's how that fit in that space in my life, and this is how it's gonna fit in this space in my life. And like you said, I don't wanna be average. I wanna deliver the best service, whether it's to a client that I'm working with at an insurance company or whether I am delivering hot dogs on a hot dog stand. I'm gonna deliver my best self to those people.
Yeah.
Be able to do that, you have to know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important that you take time to invest and discover yourself. I don't think most people really take that time, or I would say most people are afraid to really learn their true self, because they don't want to discover or be truthful to those parts of them. What I mean by that is when you really sit down and take the time to understand what your quirks are, where your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, especially those weaknesses sometimes are so disappointing that, it does hurt, and it leaves you vulnerable, and it leaves you afraid that you're a failure. I've had to admit that to myself. I wasn't the best athlete when I got to college, even on my team at Purdue. I wasn't the fastest, the strongest, the smartest. And the same thing goes for when I went to the league. And what I'm doing now in my space, I'm probably say I'm the least experienced. I'm not the expert, but I have experts around me. But the fact that I can resonate that with myself and I can go into a meeting and meet a client and already have confirmation that I don't need to be the expert, but I have experts around me. And so I can lean on them. And the same goes for when I was in college that yes, I wasn't the fastest, but I have people that are faster than me that I can lean on them at certain situations and put them in the right situations. And the same goes for college, for the pros. But I think spending enough time with yourself to your point and resonating with yourself, your weaknesses and your strengths, and wanting to be better, wanting to sharpen those weaknesses and elevate them always gives you a point of life where I'm always working towards something. So I'm never satisfied. It doesn't mean that what I want is this grandiose idea of materialism
Mhm.
or something that's just so external. All it means is I have this pool of talent that God has given me. And the purpose of that talent is really to serve other people. And I always want to bring the full scope of that talent to the forefront so that I'm giving the best version, I'm giving the best service, I'm giving the best idea so that whatever it is, my short time, whether I'm here for 5 years, 30 years, 50 years, 60, 100 years, I'm serving the purpose that God has given me to others. And then I can walk off and say, you know what, I did it according to what he wanted me to do it with, and I'm okay with that.
Amen. As far as athletes right now that are going through this transition, we both know the different challenges when you're 20 years old or when you're about to be done, when you're 3 years out or 2 years out of being done, you don't really understand what might has the potential for hitting you. Um, what are 3 action items that those athletes can do to navigate this transition better?
Yeah, great question. I love this question because all athletes go through it. Whether you're, high school athlete and you're not going to play in college, you have to learn how to transition. Whether you're a collegiate athlete and not going professional, you have to learn how to transition. And whether you're an NFL athlete or basketball, NBA, whatever it is, you have to. At some point, you're going to have to transition, and there's a lot of life to live. 3 action items that pop up to mind. I would say one, you have to get a mentor. You have to find a lane, somebody that you admire, that you think can help you understand and navigate a space that you've never experienced before. Because what that would do is really help you and reduce the amount of mistakes that you're going to have. That's going to have. You're going to make mistakes, but you want to reduce those mistakes to a certain point that it doesn't slow you down or divert you, too far off your path. So, getting a mentor is one. Two, you also have to invest in educating yourself. I think it's important that you will allow yourself to grow by getting some knowledge of the industry or space that you want to go into. And even if you don't know, pick one, just pick something,
Right.
and, and,
Just
and
say yes.
and just say yes and go with it. And you're going to learn soon or later down the road if it's something that you want to do or you have passion to do. But just do nothing is the worst thing that can happen. To do just to sit there and to twiddle your thumbs and do nothing is the worst thing that could happen to you because you're not growing, you're not gaining ground on anything. And then lastly, I would say you're going to fail. Point blank, you're going to fail. But it's okay because I always say I learn more from my losses than my wins, right? All the games that I've lost, the time that I spent just going back and studying the film and watching the mistakes and what I could have done better actually helped me to gain those victories that vividly remember. So going to getting a mentor, getting more education and an expert on an industry or a lane that you want to walk into, but also accepting the failures along the way are 3 important keys that you should allow yourself to step into when it comes to transitioning. But along the way, it's going to allow you to grow. It's going to allow you to really be that person that you want to be. I would definitely say the question makes me think about my own transition, and for me, it was more so about how far can I push myself and then bring in, but not being afraid because I actually have all the tools, those intangibles that most corporations, most businesses, most entrepreneurs want because I played sports and I've had to use every aspect of what, I like to call the real world or civilian life in my athletic endeavors. And if you just trust all of that, trust the hard work, trust the discipline, trust your ability to be committed, trust your ability to be a teammate, a team member, or even if you played individual sports. But at some point, you can trust that you can work in silos and be successful. But you have to, somewhat transition and working with other people. But even if you played individual sport, you still have all these attributes that most people don't have, and most real world wish that they would have more like in their work environment. So if you can trust that, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I love that you called it the intangibles. These are things you can't buy them. You can't be handed them. It has to come from within. And it's something that all athletes they have in common. We've all been dedicated and we've all had something kind of bigger than ourselves out
Mhm.
there. And wow, this was an awesome conversation. I'm so thankful for you. Now I know your goal is to impact 50,000 lives. How are you doing that, and where can people find you?
Yeah, yeah. So, naturally I do that through, several mediums. One, my work, all the clients that I meet, all the prospects that I talk to, I want to leave a positive impact on them. My other mediums are like social media. I love Instagram. I try to post daily. The Aiken Project, you can always look me up there,
I saw that. I was curious. I was like, "So, what does the Aiken project mean?"
I'm always I'm a work
I
in progress, I'm
I
just
love it.
always working on something. So there's that Twitter, my name, and then LinkedIn. Always reach out to me. I'm very approachable. I'm not shy. I don't think I've ever met a stranger. I'm not shy to talk to anybody. And I love people. That's one thing. I love learning about your story and things that you've done. And I know we're talking about swimming, and I'm sure I want to poke your brain about swimming techniques and trying to be more efficient. So
I'm here. I'm open.
you can reach out to me on any of those mediums, and hopefully one day we also get to do business.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Aiken, for your time and your wisdom, for all the things that you've been through. I mean, I know nothing has been easy, but everything's been worth it. And I'm thankful that you're here to be able to explain that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's just enjoyable. Good luck with everything. Talk soon.